they co-founded Bend Over Backwards LLC, and this was all in pursuit of his dream to own and renovate the new ISIS Theater in the Fort Worth Stockyards. Since that time, I would dare say that neither he nor his wife, Debbie Smith, have slept much. No, that was quite an undertaking, and we're going to hear about that tonight. And just a bit of trivia, Jeffrey holds a Bachelor of Arts degree from Texas Tech University in Theater Arts and Communication, and both he and Debbie taught school-wide here in Grapevine. So let's welcome Jeffrey to tell us all about how they brought the ISIS back to life.
It's okay, we almost stand out here in the front.
You stand where?
Can everybody hear me okay? I'm a little bit of a loudmouth, so I'll try to steer clear. So first off, on behalf of my wife, myself, I want to thank y'all for inviting us to be here. We're really honored and appreciate the opportunity to come and share the story of what we were able to accomplish, where we're headed, and everything that's going on. I will do my best to keep it brief. I have a tendency to be verbose. I'm very excited about what we were capable of doing. So definitely want to get to a point where if you guys have questions or things like that, I'll be happy to answer those for you. So with that being said, downtown Cowtown of the ISIS, where did that come from? So the ISIS Theater in the historic Stockyards of Fort Worth has been there since 1914. Originally, the building consisted of the theater itself. It also had a pharmacy, and at the back of the building it had a Western Union, and directly upstairs it had a 12-room rooming house. And that's the way it was until about 1935, I believe is when it was that it actually changed. And unfortunately, the building burned because of a film incident. But the owner, Louis Tidball, also at that time, he also owned Rose Marine Theater. It was a very difficult, challenging time. And he went through a process where they decided to remodel that entire theater, and they built it into the largest theater in Fort Worth, reopened in 1936 as the new ISIS Theater. And that's why when you drive down there, you see the old marquee up at the top where it does say new ISIS at the top. That's when it became the new, that's when that marquee went in, was 1936. It had 1,000 seats. It had a lower level and an upper level. They took out the rooming house, they took out the Western Union, but they kept the pharmacy. And so the pharmacy was there, and what we've learned through the years, it shifted from a pharmacy to a jeweler's, to a hair salon, to a chiropractor. You name it, it went through several different changes in that location throughout the years. Now, it changed ownership in 1968 to the Griffith family, which is, if you all know Griff's Burgers, Griff's Drive-Ins, that's actually who actually purchased it in 1968. They had it from 1968 until it closed in 1988. Between 1979 and 1988, it really fell on hard times. That whole area down there had really gone downhill. But also, if you'll remember, that's when your multiplexes came in. That's when you had your Tinseltowns and your Cinemarks and the multi-screen theaters. So the single-screen movie theaters really kind of went by the wayside. And so what we had learned at that point was they just couldn't continue forward, and they just, last resort, decided to close the doors about 1988. So it basically, if you look to the picture on the right, that's kind of walking in. That's what we walked into. So that's from 1988 to 2016, nothing touched it. Mother Nature did a heck of a job and really wore it down. The picture on the right is actually the left side where the pharmacy was located. That was the actual wall there. On the other side of that wall was an office for the theater, and then on the other side of that was the lobby to the theater itself. I have just a small video here to kind of show you when we started doing excavation on this. This is how bad she was. I mean, we finally got all of the, as much as we could that wasn't attached. We took everything out that we could. We did a lot of archaeological dig on this. We found everything that we could that was of what we thought was of any value. We found everything from 1926 inspection on the electricity for the building. We have boxes of those. I have a large piece that is probably about 4.5 feet tall. That was basically one of the original electrical transformer. I call it an arc transformer. It really looked like something out of Frankenstein with a pull the switch It had a big switch on it, had a big knob, and on the knob it actually had metal to metal on dots that you would rotate, which was how they would actually lower and raise the house lights in the original theater. So we still have that. It was really kind of like a time capsule to look at the production booth upstairs and all of the different progressions of the electricity in the building. Everything from the original transformer to the knob and tube to when it first got wired, and then when it actually went into the next level of what took place on that. We tried to salvage as much of that as we possibly could. You can see in how much disrepair she was in. The roof was caving in on all four corners. I say caving in, but this building, again, being built in 1914, the walls are over 1.5 feet thick. The bricks are just unbelievable. I actually had to cut a hole into the side of the building in order for us to get some equipment in, and it was very much a challenge to do so. But you can even see down in the front, there's a little bit of water down in the front. The stage is actually below street level. And when you look at the building from the front, it doesn't necessarily look like that. So it literally does go down below. So it's a whole lot larger than what it looks like or appears from the front. I wanted to show you, once we started clearing out all of the pieces, how far we went down. You can see the door on the left that I had to put in on the wall. You can see how actually thick it is. We kept all of the bones. All of the bones are the same. We kept the beams. Those are the original beams that were put in the building from the very beginning. Those are still there. All the brick walls that's all original. The concrete that you're looking at, when you walk into the theater today, that's the concrete you'll step on. It's from 1936. We had a fit in trying to get the seats done correctly and accurately, because you can definitely tell it was hand troweled. So it's not exactly 100% perfect. So it's got a little bit of an angle to it. I think it's off by about 1.5 inches, give or take, on either side. But you really wouldn't know that being in the space. So I kind of want just to give you a chance to see kind of how far she came along through a little bit of time lapse. So everything that's down in the front, everything from the left to the right, that's actually the elevator shaft going in. Everything over to the right are the restrooms, and that's all the front of the building. We did take out the balcony. We didn't want to be another 1,000-seat house. We didn't see a need for it. So we put in a second floor, which now houses a private space, a speakeasy bar space, an overlook onto the theater, our green room, our dressing room for our entertainers. So one of the things that I did do is the stage itself was only 10 feet deep because it was just a movie screen house. We turned it into a multi-purpose live entertainment facility. So it's actually a stage now that's 30 feet deep. Theater that's that's home for me. So wanting to build my own theater and have it house the pieces that we know will work best for any type of entertainment. We're doing everything from theatrical performances to music to magicians. We have a dinosaur show coming in March. It really runs the gamut. We really are trying our hardest to make sure that this becomes kind of an arts hub in Fort Worth. But we still have a screen. We still have a movie screen. It's still the same size screen it was back in 1936. It's 37 feet wide, 16 feet tall. It's massive. Still one of the largest, I would like to think. And we run classic films. So on Sunday through Thursday, you can come and catch a classic film. We have a menu of about 35 different shows that people can come and choose from. Instead of saying, hey, these are the only 2 movies that are available, we've got a cadre of about 35, everything from Casablanca to Jaws. It's available for you to be able to come in. The front pharmacy area is no longer a pharmacy. We've changed it. So that's what she looks like now on the inside. That's what she looks like on the front now. She's come a long way.
In some of those earlier pictures, you could see the intricate metalwork on the side of the seats that all had to get pulled out.
Yes, unfortunately, yes. I was able to save about 100 of them, just the side pieces. Unfortunately, Mother Nature, they were rusted really, really bad. I do have 1 or 2 of them that we've refinished, but I've actually had folks ask me about purchasing those as is. And so we're like, I've got them available. So if they're wanting them, that's what we do. And we did the sides of the seats that we put in. I mean, they're pretty much a recreation. And if you look in the picture, I know it's hard to see on this photo, but you can certainly see when you come out, right across this back area right here. One of the things that we had to do in order to maintain the Historic Commission approval with what we were doing was to reflect that there was a mezzanine or a balcony. And one of the things that I didn't say about that at that time, if you notice, this is a full solid wall all the way across back here. At one time, in 1936 when it was first built, it actually had, you would walk up that steep entrance where the doors are, you'd come up that into the vomitorium entrance and you would turn, and then there would be stairwells that would take you up, open stairwells. So it was more like a mezzanine rather than an actual balcony. And then in 1942, the great flood of Marine Creek came along, and as I told you before, it's below street level. And so when Marine Creek flood happened, the front lobby was up to sludge and mud up to 4.5, 5 feet, which that tells you that the inside of the theater was a whole lot deeper. So what they ended up doing in 42 was closing those off, those stairwells off. My wife and I commonly refer to them as the stairwell to nowhere, because when we first walked into the building, it looked that bad. The piles of rubble everywhere. I'm climbing over piles of rubble going, it's so cool, we can do this over here. Hang on, let me get over this. And we were talking about all these different things. We get to the end, and the wall had deconstructed enough that we could see this concrete stairwell. And we're like, well, where did this stairwell go? It made no sense. So all they did was just put 2x4s and cement on the top of where the stairwell was in 1936. They just closed it off. That's all they did. And they put in a secondary stairwell in the front lobby so that if it ever did flood again, they had enough protection with the doors closed. So that's why it ended up being a full wall all the way across the back.
In the front, like this is where...
You're standing on the stage. You're standing on the stage.
Were you able with the space you had, because I know we've been limited at the Palace, there's certain acts that we can't have because we don't meet union standards for the size of the dressing rooms and all of that stuff in the back. So you can have anybody if you
Yes.
have enough to do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's very tight, and when you come, you can see how we've maximized every bit of space that we have. So, for example, the green room and dressing room. Our green room and dressing room is located upstairs. So where that window is, it's back here. This is actually a lookout area. That's a 1929 bar. I'll show you a picture of that here in a minute from a speakeasy out of New Orleans. But upstairs behind, we have a full dressing room, full green room located up there that we have our artists be able to come and stay in. The only challenge we have is that access to the stage, direct access. I built a third floor walkway. So it's an actual enclosed, complete, total, it's an opportunity to see the view of downtown Fort Worth. The only downside, it is an insane amount of stairs. And the elevator does not go up to it.
The walkway is on the roof. Wow. It's an enclosed on the roof.
So this is upstairs. That's the private space. And that's where our green room is located, and the dressing rooms and restrooms are located here. And so it actually,
That's where the apartments were upstairs.
that's where the rooming house was. Yes, ma'am. And then that's actually the bar downstairs. So where the pharmacy was located, that first picture I showed you that had that wall that was pretty ripped up, that's now the pharmacy. We now have our own pharmacy, as it were. So we have it's a cocktail lounge is what we call it. And you can go there any day, all day, come hang out, and it's really a throwback. It's an opportunity to go back in time. It really does go back to the 1930s. That's the experience we want. But with it being a pharmacy in the past, there was an exterior to-go window. And so we kept the to-go window, so we now have beer and wine to go as well. I think, yeah. So that's all of the pictures in a nutshell. I have thousands of pictures, and I'm more than happy to share all of those at any time, but we'd be here all night if I did. It would be one of those, weird uncles that sits there and shows you every single slide all the way through. But basically, as an organization, as a company, we offer classic movies during the day. We offer live entertainment on the weekends. We have something every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. We do private rentals for the space upstairs. We also use that as an overflow bar when we are full downstairs. Our capacity is 800 max. Our upstairs can hold up to 150 to 200, whether it's a private event or a bar or whatever it may be. We have the beer and wine to go, the cocktail lounge downstairs, and the gift shop as well. We are a historic landmark. We are on the historic landmark. We're going to get our plaque. I'm waiting. I got my fingers crossed that we'll get it by the end of this year, that I can put it on the front of the building, but we are.
North Main.
It's directly on Main. So when you go down, if you're going to the Stockyards, where you cross at Main Street and Exchange, you can see our bright lights. You can't miss us. We're less than a block from there. Our website is downtowncowtown.com, and I'm going to end the slideshow, and I'm going to pull that up just because I wanted you to see. I say that as I'm blocking it. So this is actually on our website. You can see what she used to look like and what she looks like now.
Go back to the yucky. Go back to the yucky.
Yes, ma'am?
Okay, so when we walked into this, he's
Here it comes.
dreaming. He's like, okay, I have this vision, and I can see this over here, and I can see this over here, and I just looked at him and went, okay. I couldn't see this.
That's what I saw.
But he could, so.
So, downtowncowtown.com. This picture right here is actually what it looked like in the 1920s. This was the entryway. You actually would come into the building, and you would actually turn around and face the screen towards Main Street with the projection booth on the back side.
Yes. We did have,
But with our concerts and events, we have a lecture series that we're doing, Women in Business. This next month is Tashara Parker, and the month after that will be Betsy Price.
in April is Chris Boyd.
And April's Chris Boyd. It's all still loading.
Is Betsy singing and dancing or running?
I wish. No. So, yeah, any questions?
Yes, I was an usher there in '68 and '69.
Were you really? You weren't an ISA set, though.
It was new ISIS, I believe, '69 or '70.
Yeah, but they had female ISIS-ettes at one point. Was that?
No, I don't remember that. I would have, but I'd like to see the place. So what time are the movies during the week?
Sunday through Thursday, 11:15, 2, 5, and 8.
Great.
And we're doing tours every day, all day.
You can have a drink while you're there.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Comes complete with its own adult sippy cup because I like my seats a little too much. So when you go in, you can take the drink with you, but you got to have a lid, and then you can take it with you as you go out into the stockyards.
So you don't get caught up in the food beverage ratio thing that restaurants do?
No, because what we do, it's straight up movie concessions. So you've got your jujubes, you got your,
Bottle caps.
yeah, your popcorn, all of the retro looking concession stand items.
What's
So.
been the most surprising group that's booked it so far? I know you've groups, but I'm talking about private.
As far as private groups are concerned, the very first thing we did out of the chute, we did the world premiere of the 12 Mighty Orphans, which was a really amazing experience because we were still not 100% done. Only I know that, now everybody else does, but we still had a few things left that we needed to do. I mean, equipment-wise and seating-wise and all that, it was fine, but that was the biggest thing we did. And then we've done, like we just did, and we're running right now, we hosted the Quarter Horse Association, or Cutting Horse Association. They did a documentary on Buster Welch called The Cut, and we're running that, right there. We're running it right now. It's a really, really good documentary on Buster Welch and Cutting Horse as a culture. And so we've had several groups like that. We have the Apache War Foundation that's coming in that's going to do their movie premiere. We've got another one coming up on Lane Frost. So those are kind of as far as the movies are concerned. We've had some really neat movie premieres that we can host. As far as live entertainment, you name it. We've had so many really great older artists. That's kind of what we want. We want either the older artist or the up and coming. They're needing an opportunity. But we're doing a little bit of everything. So, I mean.
Productions is a full-time job. Are you two doing everything? Are you running? Oh, Lord.
We've been staffing up. We're up to, thankfully, we're up to a staff of almost 25 at this point. But of that, there's probably 5 that are actually full-time. Everybody else is our tech side of things. They're running all the shows. That's my bartenders, that kind of thing. So.
But if we see a need, we jump in. And so, like, changing out the toilet paper, I change out the toilet paper. We got to mop, we mop. If we need to get behind the bar, we get behind the bar.
That's all you wash your hands. Yeah.
I wash my hands.
Not toilet paper and bar at the same time, no.
Yeah. And because we were former educators, I always tell the kids, once you're ours, you're always ours. And it's holding to be true. So right now, our technical directors are former students. The person who books all the talent, he's a former student. Our marketing person is a former student. Our oldest daughter, who's working with us, is also a former student. She was in his theater class, my English class.
And then my technical director, she went off and got her master's in theater production and then taught, and now she has 2 of her students working for, 4 of her students working for her. So talk about pay it forward educationally.
Right.
We've got 3 generations worth of
This is your full-time job.
100%,
So-
24/7.
He won't tell you this, but I will. In the midst of all of this, he decides he needs to get his doctorate degree.
You know, overachiever.
You think? So
I graduated in December, thank you.
Yeah,
Yes. Baylor Bears.
mixed them up.
I did. Texas Tech.
what is it? I can't.
It's a doctorate of education in learning and organizational change. So I can have a doctorate in learning, which I like saying that because I like to learn. So. I'm sorry? This is true. This is very true. So I know that's a lot. I'm happy to answer any questions. We brought some goodies over there that we'll be happy to give out and all that kind of good stuff. We're there. I live there. I'm there almost every day. She's making me finally take a breather and take a step back, which is good. We're finally at a point where we can, which is good. But
Kept one of those apartments.
huh?
Should have kept one.
If only it was still there, that would have been nice. But
Tell me about Marjorie.
what?
Yeah, the paranormal people.
Okay, yes. The building, of course, there's not a theater on the face of this planet that doesn't have a ghost. And we have a ghost. We have named her Marjorie. Debbie named her Marjorie because back when it was all starting and was going in there, a gentleman by the name of Tex Bentley would always tell stories of he would go in there because he was the caretaker. And as bad as the building looked, it's kind of a tough place to walk into. There's no electricity, anything else. He said he swore up and down several times he'd go in there, he would hear a lady crying. And after we procured the building and I came in and explained what I wanted to do, he said he no longer heard this woman crying from that day forward. So, of course, I go, well, okay. And then during the excavation process, I call it an archaeological dig because that's pretty much what I did for the first year and a half, just digging through rubble and finding what I can and pulling things out. I was down on the downstairs level working through a pile, and I turn around, and up in the balcony area, there's this figure of a woman. And the only way I can describe it is like 1920s garb. She was in travel clothes, a hat, and she just stood there and watched me. So you can imagine, you're here in the back of your neck staying up, you're kind of like, oh, okay, hi. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And didn't think much about it after that, just kind of picked up my stuff and left a little bit later. Probably a couple months later, doing the same thing in a similar location, not the same place, but hers was the exact same location. Saw her again the second time, looked almost exactly the same, but she sat down and just watched. The second time she just sat down. So I kind of went, okay, so I guess we're good. She's not standing, it's not weird, so even though it's telling the story's a little weird.
You didn't think much about it. I mean, the first time, I think I would have thought a lot about it.
Well,
Interesting, you know?
we did a lot of research trying to figure out if there was something that happened, and we did find that there was a woman who died up there, and we think it was smoke inhalation. Is that what it was? But we then had one of the paranormal groups come in and do their investigation, and it's Mystic Ghost, and we're on there, and oh yeah, that she's there, and she had a great conversation with them, and
That was her angel.
so.
Good thing to be for a ghost.
It's one of those things where, and I didn't realize it when I did it, but where I placed the green room, which, you know, where your artists hang out and everything, that's where she was. That's exactly where she was hanging out. So basically, it's Marjorie's room. So, yes, sir.
Call it Marjorie's room.
Looking at that, did you take those pictures of the way it was to take to somebody and get the financing to do all that? You say, look at what
When I started this project, I did all the research I could on the building, what the building needed, what needed to be done to fix, what I was going to do with it, how I was going to approach it. We went and met with the owners of the building, and he looked at me in astonishment, saying that I did it backwards, that most people usually buy the building and then do all the planning. I had done all the planning before I came in. I came in with 2 3-ring binders of a bunch of information. And I think that was enough to sell him that I could purchase the building. To get the financing was a whole different ballgame. I went through over 48 different institutions and got 48 different notes. And I got to the point of, the heck, you're going to tell me no? And so I figured out a way to creatively finance everything that we could do. Ended up going through the historic tax credit process. Did both the federal and the state tax credits, which, believe it or not, you can do both. Also went through property assessed clean energy, which is a program that allows for you to put in 21st century green, eco-friendly air conditioning, plumbing, etc., and you get a credit. And all of that funding comes on the front end. And then the rest of it was out of my own dadgum pocket. And we got creative with how we were doing that. And I felt pretty good about where we were and how we got it done until I had a contractor who was absolutely horrible and decided to increase the price a huge amount more than what was originally agreed to. And because I had already gone through the process with the tax credits and already gotten enough funding that way, I was able to procure a bridge loan to finish that out. I can tell you that our debt is no more than 30%. We own just about everything in the building. We went about it in a way that we were very methodical, very conservative. The only thing that was the outlier that I had no control over was the contractor and what the contractor was doing. They got tired of seeing me because I was there every day, taking pictures, saying, that's wrong, no, redo that, fix that, why are you doing it that way? I did that for quite a while. This whole process, start to finish, we started in 2017, we opened in 2021. So it took me 5 years to get her done.
That's actually pretty aggressive, considering what you started with.
Oh, you thought it'd be a lot?
Yeah, delusions of grandeur on my part is we started, and the architect, which, by the way, my architect, his name is Arthur Weinman. Side note, his grandfather designed the original ISIS Theater. So he had a vested interest in seeing this come to fruition.
We didn't know that when we went to it.
No, not until we sat down and talked. And God love the man. He stayed with me through thick and through thin, through the whole process. He's still there if I need him. I just pick up the phone and call. So he's been amazing. And we did a lot working through to get the design right with him. So.
You know, the city wants us to take a piece of paper and recycle it, can and recycle it and everything else. But then again, they don't even bat an eye about letting you demo a building that has walls this thick.
I will tell you.
I applaud you for taking something like this and sell it.
Well, thank you. We worked hard with the Texas Historic Commission to make sure that we did it right. I brought them in. I know as a historic society, you know how this works. I brought in from Austin, Texas Historical Commission come up and walk through to approve us for the historic tax credit process. When I walked her through, my understanding, the way that it usually goes, is they walk through and say, you can't change this, you've got to keep this, don't touch this. I walked her through the building and said, I want to keep this, I want to keep this, I only want to change this. And she said, that's what I would have told you anyways. So we were kind of on the same page, which was good, which meant it was supposed to happen, which I think is great. Typically, in doing a construction, most people think dealing with the city of Fort Worth is a pain and horrible and rotten and awful. I'm the poster child for the city was great. The only thing they didn't do was provide funding. But they did everything else. If I needed help, I picked up the phone and talked to City Councilman Carlos Flores and said, hey, what do we need to do for this? Within 24 hours, I had an answer. Within 24 hours of that, I had action. When it came down to our permitting and our permitting process, my contractor came to me one day and said, well, I don't know what to tell you. We can't get a permit. I said, what do you mean you can't get a permit? I pick up the phone, I call, talk to Robert Stearns. Robert Stearns says, oh yeah, just come on down, I'll take care of you. 15 minutes later, I had a permit and said, here you go. I don't know, what are you talking about? They were phenomenal. If I needed an inspection, I called, they were there. If it was something that needed to be fixed, they weren't like, dude, I'm not signing off on this. They were like, okay, look, here's what you need to fix. I'll be back in 24 hours. I'll sign off because I know you're going to do it. And sure enough, regular as clockwork, they'd be back 24 hours later. They see we're working on it, and they would sign, and we'd move on. So, I mean, kudos to the city of Fort Worth for their support for us through the process. I wish they would have done it financially. That would have been great, but that's all right.
I mean, I really am.
I
You really added something to Fort Worth.
I agree, and I think conjecture on my part, and it's the only way I can phrase this is to say I'm just not big enough. I'm not Mule Alley. I'm not Majestic that has bajillions of dollars. There was a lot of question as to whether or not I could finish this. A lot of questions of I don't know how he's going to do it. Is it going to happen? And then here we are, and it's done. And I'm like, kind of told you. So they are appreciative, and we've seen a few of them come through. But Carlos Flores is probably the biggest one on that list, who's already scheduled a couple of events to come to the space. It's been a high topic of conversation at the city, I've been told. So I'm incredibly supportive from that standpoint. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a national association for restored theater?
That's a good question. And there's an organization of historic theaters that you can, I say it's like a group chat kind of thing. There's a lot that connect and talk about what they've done. I can't think of the name of the group off the top of my head. But it's more of a network of historic theaters, which I have got to pursue to make sure that we're connected with them because our story would help, I think.
Had you two met before? You need to chat. Because he's a fairly good expert on theaters, old theaters. And he does voiceovers and all sorts of things. So I think you all would have a lot in common. Any more questions?
Yes, sir.
When I worked there, I did hear there was a ghost there.
Did you?
Yeah, and some of the kids were afraid, that the place was haunted. I had never seen a ghost. But I realized it was a woman as well, if I remember correctly.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you. I think it's amazing. Get
on the ghost tour.
The Cowtown Winery is supposed to be including us in their tour at this point, but that's one of our challenges is exchange, and here we are on Main Street. We're literally less than a football field away, but people do this. And so we're right now working to convince people to just turn. If you see our lights, you'll come down and check us out. So that's our big thing now is just how can we spread the word, let people know we're here. We're available. We're open every day. We just want your patronage. We want you to come and check us out. I'll do like I'm doing right now. I'll talk your ear off on what we've done with the building and all the different significant pieces. So,
Talk about parking real quick.
huh?
He asked about parking.
Great question. Parking, we have 2 parking lots that are associated with us that are on 24th and Ellis. So actually, if you were to go to the theater, take a right turn on 24th Street, there's free parking that's on the street right there. But then at Ellis, which is the very first street there, on the left side, there's a parking lot right there that's associated with us. And the one directly behind that is also associated with us.
About the tax, you said it's coming in.
Yes.
So you buy your tickets online?
You can call in and we'd be happy to take care of you, or you can come into the theater and we'll take care of you. Sundays and Mondays at 2 and 8, and then we're doing a special evening performance with giveaways and other things on the 28th, which is Saturday. This Saturday. And the show will be at 8. We'll probably run it all day on Saturday, but the big one's Saturday night.
Well, I know Tommy Simmons has bugged me for 3 years to do, we haven't done sort of not a road trip, but we haven't done, what did you call them, Tommy?
Bus trips, but we
Well, he wants to get the group together and go somewhere and visit, and I think that'd be the perfect thing to do.
And we can accommodate the bus process. I just need to know, because we've actually zoned the side of the building for valet. So eventually we do on our larger shows have valet available when we hit capacity or when we're hitting 200 to 300 patrons for a show. We're looking at right now, it's supposed to be, and again, you know how tough it is with COVID. They're having difficulty with staffing right now on the valet, but we're looking to start it regularly every Friday and Saturday night. So even if you're coming down to the Stockyards and you're not coming to one of our events, you can still use our valet.
We'll pick something special and get that in the newsletter and get that planned. That'll be good.
they do have a train running over there, by the way.
Amazing that you would mention that. That might be a good way to do that. And it's not far, doesn't even let off far from where he is, so we'll never think about that. Marvin?
How did you work out the arrangement for parking? Are those city lots?
No, actually, the individual that I purchased the building from had the 2 parking lots as well, and I facilitated a deal to purchase the parking lots with a parking lot company. So I'm partnered with a parking lot company with those. I didn't want to get into the parking lot business, but I needed the parking, so.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, it sure is an exciting project, and thank y'all so much for coming tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you.